Howdy everyone, and welcome back to another episode on the Shattered Skies Hardcore Survival server. This is Quantum Quasar speaking, and back with another weekly WIP report. That's getting more difficult to say now that I think of it. But anyway, jumping right in, to the base, the main Zorp Corp headquarters has received a couple slight changes here. We have a couple of massive stacks of factory enhancers. I haven't gotten around to working on a more proper factory system yet. But I needed to generate a large amount of armor and a few other items, so I installed those just to get me going. I'm not even sure how much is in there now. Each of those smaller stacks is 500, so that's a couple of thousand. I think maybe about close to 3,000 in each of those stacks of factory enhancers, rather. Other than that, on the main base, I do have a little bit of a docking area done up down here. And these larger docking pods are going to be for the cruiser, the Carbonite cruiser, which we'll get to in a moment, plus a sort of observation bay type area. Still wireframing a lot of this stuff. I haven't worked on the main base too terribly much. I have put in quite a bit of effort into this right here, which is starting to be the shell for the Magnetar. And I've been working on it quite a bit because I'm doing the wedging kind of as I go, taking an incredible amount of time. I actually may shave everything down close to maybe one of these last couple of rungs, because instead of a straight sphere shape, I'm going with kind of this dodecahedron kind of style. I'm not even sure what the appropriate prism name for this would be, because its sides are two different shapes, and geometry wasn't my best suit in school. But you can see, I mean, with the same shape overall as some of the other vessels, which we'll get to in a minute. But I'm trying to replicate that in the shell there. This is a work in progress mega harvester kind of thing. It started out with pulse salvage beams because I was trying to do an optimized build. Hence the giant blobs of power. I think this thing has close to 2.5, 3 million power a second. But I switched that back out for about 50% Cannon Slave because I think I just liked it better. So now it's got a ridiculous amount of extra power on it, and I'm not sure what to do with it. I do want to keep it because currently it's called the Gluon, and I kind of like it. It does its job really well. And so I want to keep using it, but that means I'm going to have to adjust the shape slightly to match the rest of my ships that I currently have and keep the theme going. In speaking of keeping the theme going, I do have another little work in progress down here. This is a base defense turret. It's currently just a damage beam slaved missile platform. And the ball portion of it is pretty much empty. The turret swivels for both docks are actually in the center of the ball, which you can't see very well in here, but there, you get a little bit of light. That's both turret docks, so the station's docking point is actually in the center of the sphere, so it was built around the turret dock. If I did ever want to move this somewhere, I would need to probably core out the back and plug some engines on it or something, so that way I could actually dock it where I want it. I do want to put some sort of effect on there. I'll probably build some blocks around the side here to kind of, give it space for its new effect and to break up the very smooth curve on it so far. I'll give you guys a very quick sneak peek. This is something that is currently in the middle of being built. And I'm doing a speed build recording on that, so we're not going to show too much more of that. But I will show it off once it's complete as a full speed build, start to finish. I just needed to take a break from it to work on some other things. This guy down here is actually not my build. I had Prosper come back for a little bit and wanted to build on something and said he kind of liked my theme. And so he started to build an interceptor type drone. And I really like where he's gone with it. I especially like this tiny front portion, and in fact, with almost if you take off the rear portion, it would be a really cool little like anti-missile drone or chaff drone or scout of some sort. So I may kind of take his idea and keep working on it if he doesn't show back up. in the next couple of days to a week or so. But over here's the real pride and joy. Almost 100. I would call this like 95 to 98% complete. This is the Carbonite cruiser that you guys have seen me work on in the last couple of videos, and oh man, am I happy now that it's got a paint job. I was starting to get a little bit fed up with it. I put quite a bit of time into this so far. The only thing it's currently lacking is some AMS turrets and maybe a little. I might break up some of the detail portions on it a little bit more elsewhere. But this has been, as you guys know, because I've had a couple of videos on it already, a gigantic work in progress for me, and I'm really happy with how it's turning out. I especially like the tile patterns on the front, and when you line up the camera just right, you can see on the right hand side it looks very very two-dimensional, but then on the left hand side, because of the wedging there, you get those really steep angles, and I kind of like that. It's got kind of like a copperhead diamondback kind of thing going on, and that makes me pretty happy. So the wings I'm not 100% sold on, just because they seem very flat, which they are very flat. They don't seem very flat. They definitely are very flat. But it's I needed something to kind of break up the definition a little bit because the rest of it was a little too smooth. So I also want to finish raising the back armor plate to match the side armor plates a little bit better. You can see how they're capped off a little bit more nicely. So I want to do that with this back armor plate here, and then that with the anti-missile turrets, and maybe a little bit more smoothing, maybe a little tiny bit more greebling. There's a couple of areas on it that are kind of smooth, a little bit too smooth that I don't like too terribly much. But other than that, I mean, it's done. You can see I've taken away the other bomber and 3 of the fighters. That's because they have now all been swapped over to standard hull. They were advanced. I went ahead and dropped them down to standard because I needed the advanced for the cruiser, and I was running low, and it gets really expensive after a while. So I dropped them down to standard. I also adjusted the fighter so that it is now optimized for stop effect, and I removed the jump drive. So I've replaced all of the jump drive and overdrive effect modules that were in there when it was optimized for player use, and is now optimized as a drone. So it should do a little bit better job of dealing its stop damage where it needs to. Again, I feel like I might have done a little bit too much lighting. I'm going a little bit overboard with some of it, but at the same point in time, it's like certain angles the lighting looks overdone, and other angles it looks, underdone or just right. So I think I'll leave it for now. I really like how it started to turn out. It's got a good profile, a good varied shape, and a couple more guns now, a couple more outputs for the cannon. The cannon now has a total of 8 outputs, and looks like I missed a block there. Need to switch that over to black advanced too. So, but 8 outputs on the cannon, dealing ion damage. I think God, I don't remember the DPS on the cannons. I think I'm in build mode in this though, so I might check it here in a second. The missiles, I think there's 7 different missiles, like 1 main and 6 sub-missiles, and it deals about 450,000 damage, but plus the ion effect, and I think it's like 80 or 90% ion. So maybe if we can, yep, we can see here. So 80% ion, and the cannons are 91% ion, and the total DPS on that 36,000 on the cannons. So for a cruiser, it handles itself pretty well, and should be able to dish out quite a bit of damage. The ion cannons are almost 100% rapid fire, and it's got a nice spread on it, so it should be able to deal, especially when there's 2 of them in play, should be able to deal some pretty good damage to ships with hardened shields on them. So that's the idea anyway. The theme I'm starting to really enjoy. I like where everything's going. I may get back to work on the base some more, and I probably will finally tear down the banana harvester now that I have the glue on, and the themed harvester. The themed harvester, I believe, is actually pulse. There's 2 sets of pulse in there, if I remember. I might have switched that back out, though. I haven't worked on it for a couple of days since I did the recording. But I do want to get the Gluon kind of themed in, so that way we'll have like a salvage frigate that kind of matches the theme of the others. And I want to play with varying the theme some, because this hammerhead portion that you have on the bomber, the fighter, and the cruiser, I want to start playing around with doing different things, like maybe setting it vertically instead of horizontally, or maybe setting 2 of them in place, or just playing around with different ways that I can expand the theme so that way not every ship that I make has this, big giant, hammerhead piece on it. I want to mess around with it, see what I can do with different parts, see how I can mix some of the different angles and things, and just have some more fun with it. So with that said, that's pretty much everything. I do have, as a last little update, that gantry rail you can see off in the distance. I started working on it. It is actually railed up, and it does move back and forth and will be able to move up and down as well. But I might be relocating soon. I did take a second system, and I only really want one system, but I'm not sure if I want to relocate everything to that second system or not. I was kind of waiting on finishing the cruiser, as well as finishing out the harvesting that I have left to do in this system before I make that decision. But I probably will move to the other system at some point. I'm just not sure when. But because I may be moving, I don't want to dump too many more bricks into the base, because that's going to be a healthy blueprint on its own to have to do. I will probably be eating the catalyst next, and then I'm going to have to start on this frigate, which I'm almost scared to do. I think I am going to finish off the small harvester and the big harvester first, because I want to play, like I said, with the ideas for the hammerhead and some of the design themes in changing those themes, but keeping them still in vein with everything else. So with that said, expect to see the Gluon as the next update, hopefully. We'll see where that goes. I'm not sure. I'm not too keen on finishing the anti-missile turrets on the Carbonite, mostly because I hate finishing things. I don't know why. But I do plan on finishing the speed build for the other salvager, and then play around with some design themes on this guy, and see if I can't make something that's a little bit more bulky, a little bit more construction-y, but still fitting the theme of everything else. So for now, this is Quantum Quasar. Thank you for joining me for another Weekly WIP report. And to everybody out there, keep flying.